Do you think that this could benefit us in the long term, like a global pandemic shaking things up so badly that we finally get some like common sense policies in place? Like, is there a chance that more people realize that we need Medicare for all? Is there a chance that like we get anything good out of this?
There's always a chance, absolutely. And I think that now, whether it's going to happen, we'll see. It's very frustrating to see the polls coming out showing, Medicare for all among Democrats has 80% or something like that, support, and seeing a situation that calls for it, and then, the DNC won't add it to the platform, but simultaneously, what we've seen over the past, I would say, just over 20 years, as far as like I can trace it, and I'm sure there's better scholars who can trace it even further, is the rise of the power of the people, like true grassroots, and not the AstroTurf stuff, but which for anybody out there, that's just where billionaires basically give money to small local groups to make them seem like really big grassroots groups, but they're just really using a megaphone provided by the uber wealthy. Whereas the situation we're in, we're not going to get the change society we need from one of the parties that exist.
We're going to get it from people marching in the streets demanding it.
Exactly. And it's like, yes, one of the parties will eventually cave to it, and it's going to be the Democrats as they slowly, have these long-standing, more conservative and corporate members like slowly picked off by, Justice Democrats or other awesome, people who are really
the Missouri race that just flipped
Cory Bush.
Yeah, that's a huge deal.
It's also huge because Clay wasn't somebody who didn't represent like his district. It wasn't, like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez knocking off some old white dude who really just was out of step with the demographics and the population, in the Bronx. It is, like she was like, no, he's just not standing for the right issues. And also, and that was a really close race. And it's beautiful that she was able to come back and run again. From 2018, she lost and then makes up another, I think, 10 points. I think she lost by 10 points before, maybe more. And it's really showing just
working
the power
class
of people getting the message out, and of people finally hitting a point where they're realizing that it's, just having a D next to your name's not enough. That it's like, okay, what exactly are the policies? What are you standing for? We have somebody running up against like Pelosi, like in San Francisco. It'll be the first time in California we have his name's Shahid Buttar. And it's the first time in California, or first time Pelosi's going to face a Democrat in November. And California, we have, unlike other states, we have the what they call the jungle primary, basically a top two system. So for all of these offices, whoever the top two are in the primary, whether they're both Republicans, whether it's Green Party and Democrat, whether they're both Democrats, top two make it through. We've had this since 2012, and this will be the first time Pelosi ever faces a Democrat. And so I'm also honestly, very curious to see what's going on there and how it ends up shaking out.
Yeah, it's very interesting, even if for people that don't follow politics, that the whole political map has been, adjusted with Texas and Michigan and different states, that they're changing their viewpoints. People are moving around, and it's taking away a lot of what like the electoral college sort of strategy was, because it isn't what it was 8 years ago. It's just it's everything's up for grabs. I don't know on the presidential level what's going to happen with Biden. I was a big Bernie person, and I guess we don't need to get too deep into the woods with it all, but he is, even I was telling Tasha, like the video footage they're showing of Biden, if that's the best thing he can say, it's like, how many takes did he mess up before that's what they got?
Like we've both worked in the film industry. We know that everybody gets 20 takes, and that was it. That
was the best shot.
We got it in the can.
So his VP is going to be, that's a big deal. And again, it's inspiring to see so many people kind of catching up to other countries as far as politically their inspiration, which we've just been so apathetic to.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of it is.
By the way, do you need another?
I guess.
Are you good?
I'll take one, please. Please, beer me, sir.
Here we go. We're another beer toss. A one-handed
Oh,
beer toss.
All right,
I brought it into the bed basket.
I got a little
Did
spill
not
on the
drop.
throw.
Did not drop. But yeah, the people I've learned organizing from, and it started primarily with Money Out of Politics work. What's been really interesting about this whole rise of the grassroots and people-powered movements is it feels like slowly over time, and the Democratic Party participated in this, the labor movement was what championed regular Americans. Like there were the rich, and that was Republicans, and then there were the unions, and that was typically Democrats, and the unions fought hard. And then slowly as the unions got eroded from late 70s, and the percentage of our country of people who belong to a union, who are protected by a union, who have better pay because of a union, slowly got whittled away. And then the strength and political might of these unions also got whittled away. You didn't have a ton of the people-powered movements popping up. But now it seems like the people I learned from, they started in unions. They just decided we're going to take this organizing ability and this knowledge, and we're going to take it out and we're going to apply it to all of these causes that we are, that the unions aren't doing anything about right now. And we're simply going to go out and make sure that people can get in the streets and get themselves heard and educate other people. And it's completely changed the map. But a lot of it is because the Democrats moved away from really supporting like working people, And
Well, yeah, because they got infiltrated by money, just like you said, and all of that anti-union propaganda and rhetoric that started around the 70s. I mean, you can if you look at like graphs, you can see the correlation between like our percentage of
productivity.
Yeah, exactly. Like the revenue that we earn for the people that we work for, our percentage, our share gets smaller and smaller and smaller as unions get less and less powerful. And think about the burnout too. Yeah. Like when you don't have like your workday, 8-hour workday limits and all of that we're just too burned out to be active.
But that's why I think that part of the this kind of unemployment a lot of people have received due to the pandemic here, it's there needs to be a rebranding, I think, to a lot of middle America, like not hearing the word socialism. It's like, or social, you start to hear like certain trigger words and you're like, I'm against that. But so much of our country is getting such a raw deal but they're still defending that raw deal. And I think what people are learning is that this pandemic, we've been on thin ice for so long, and this fat pandemic just walks up and just shatters it all, and people go, oh, maybe life wasn't as stable as I thought it was, and maybe we would benefit a little bit from so I think by maybe exposing people to a lot of the flaws of our country, there will be more concession to being like, okay, yeah, maybe we could, because it's crazy that there were, and again, you probably know a lot more than I do about this, but it's crazy when like sometimes like some people in the Republican Party are trying to get checks sent out, and then there's people in the Democratic Party who aren't, and it's almost like the progressive movement is almost completely separate from what used to be the two-party system.
If you have an example of a Republican trying to help people by sending something out, and at least something recent.
No, and I'm totally against the Band-Aid.
Not for just optics either, because it's an election year.
But that's important when it is an election year to see someone's like actually trying to do what matters to their constituents. Like it's important. Like that's why it would be better to maybe have less term limits or whatever, just so people would be a little bit more reliant on doing what their base is in their best interest.
Yeah. Well, for me, like what's really scary is like we've hit a point where this pandemic, when you guys are, the pandemic and Trump combined are exposing weaknesses not just in our country, but then also in our electoral system and our entire government structure,
And
where,
our populace.
Yes. No.
Just
and
being like completely uninformed.
yes.
Now,
because we've gutted education, people don't know how to think critically anymore. And also, I mean, and going back to where this was a bipartisan issue for a while, late 90s, FCC deregulation, allowing for consolidation of media, which basically means we're getting the same stuff pumped into all these local stations, you know.
These same pre-recorded stories.
Sinclair Group. Yeah, no, it's great.
Yeah.
It's great what they're doing to expose all that.
But at the same time, it's like we're already so late in this. And there was the did you guys see that meme out there where it's the couple from St. Louis out in front of their home with the
that's our Halloween costume this year. That's for sure.
We're not going anywhere for Halloween.
We're gonna run into 5 different people dressed as the same Halloween costume. I got weight to gain.
To be great. But
Nerf guns.
And like I love the meme where it's like Fox News did to our parents what they thought rap music would do to us, and I was just like, oh my god, that's perfect, because it's like they're just running around toting guns like in that mansion that's so gaudy and ridiculous. But we're at a point where everything's been eroded, and you guys are like, we're talking about Biden, and honestly, he could do anything. He could give all the worst interviews. He could do whatever. He is not throughout his entire history of running for office, winning office, exercising power. He has not sought to actively subvert election results. He has not actively sought to subvert the courts, to intimidate judges, to push forward unconstitutional measures left and right. There is literally no choice to be made. He could do anything, and yet media and everybody are still going to cover it as if this is some sort of normal situation, when it is literally, and I hate that we've had 20 years of everybody saying this is the most important election of our lifetimes.
Every election.
But at the same time, in hindsight, a lot of them are, because you can trace back so many of the current problems to, Bush 1, and even some of the issues with respect to executive power, to Obama expanding executive power. But where we're at right now, it is freaking terrifying.
It's wild. It's going to be a wild few months.
I really feel like we're living. This is like when people say we're all just in a simulation, or that like our whole experience is just like made up, right? It's just like what we're projecting. It's like, it kind of makes sense that we elected a reality star.